It's important to recognize that if you sleep with a girl, then there can be a strong sense of connection with her. That can be difficult because sometimes if you're sleeping with them on a regular basis and they're attached to you and they have an idea that they're going to turn you into a boyfriend, they might be very offended or hurt or upset or defensive about you sharing your energy with other women. The next thing we're going to talk about after you understand your values and what's important to you is your focus. Where are you putting your focus and how is that then contributing to and affecting your relationships? Because you have a choice at every particular moment in your life, every day, about what do you want to do with your time? Where are you going to focus yourself? What are you going to put your attention onto? What are you going to give power to in terms of your emotions, your thoughts, your opportunities, etc.? When you're dating a girl or you're sleeping with a girl on a semi-regular basis or more, then there can be a tendency to start to fall into the kind of romantic narrative, the fantasy of culture that is, you sleep with somebody multiple times, so then you should start to, be with them more long term because that's the right thing to do, or there's something that naturally evolves out of that. Now, the interesting thing about this focus piece that I'm talking about is it's very natural. Pay attention here. It's very natural that when you sleep with somebody, that you can become biologically attached. Now, women have a tendency to do this a lot more than men generally, but nonetheless, men still get chemically bonded to a woman over time because they're sharing all these things, pheromones, experience, pleasure. That stuff becomes powerful. It's where we build relationships, it's where we build meaning. And it's important to recognize that if you sleep with a girl, a couple of times even, then there can be a strong sense of connection with her. Now, one of the ways you can make sure that you don't get too obsessed with one connection is you can see multiple women. Now, that might sound a little bit harsh and some people might be against that, but the idea is that once you open yourself at least to seeing other women, you don't even necessarily have to be sleeping with lots of other women, but be open to talking to other women, be open to dating other women, be open to allowing your masculine energy, your masculine sexuality, your masculine expression to be shared with other women so that it doesn't get all put into one basket with one girl. And that can be difficult because sometimes girls, if you're sleeping with them on a regular basis and they're attached to you and they have an idea that they're going to turn you into a boyfriend, they might be very offended or hurt or upset or defensive about you sharing your energy with other women. And rightly so in some sense, because they're just trying to protect their investment. They're just trying to protect their emotions. They're just trying to protect their identity and what they believe is good for them. So it's important to acknowledge that and to understand that in them as well, but also stay true to yourself, because otherwise you're going to end up in this difficult position where you're trying not to piss her off by not being true to yourself. And when you do that, then you're going to come up against something very powerful, which is called the law of lesser pisses. What's that mean? Well, that means if you're going to piss somebody off, it's better to piss somebody else off than piss yourself off. Because at the end of the day, you've got to live with yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not clear on what's important to you, if you're not doing what really matters to you, then especially over time, you're going to just grow in more and more resentment, unhappiness, frustration, and basically feeling repressed because you're not able to express yourself effectively. Now, a big part of being able to do that with people in the world is negotiation skills. It's about knowing what is important to you. So for example, in my journey, where I used to be a very monogamous kind of guy who was having typical long-term relationships, and that was good for me at the time, and maybe that will happen again at some point, but in those times when I was having those kinds of experiences, I really wanted to have a deep and meaningful connection with one girl. Then after a time I realized that I wanted to do different things, so then I became much more open and flexible and able to go with the flow of this big ocean of adventures and experiences. And now that means that I have a fairly fluid relationship cycle. So I might see a girl for weeks, months, maybe up to a year or so, depending on what happened, but I'm also open to other experiences and other relationships coming and going within that time. And this is something that is always negotiated step by step. Obviously, it's important for me to know who I am and what I want first. I need to say to myself, I want to be the kind of guy who's open and fluid, has a dynamic sex life, has multiple partners, and is cool and honest and leaving women better than when I found them, but at the same time being honest with myself about what's healthy for me. Now, because I live a very dynamic lifestyle, it's more applicable for me to have this kind of relationship setup. So it's important for you guys out there, if that's what you want to do, to work out Why is it important for you to set this up for yourself if that's what you really want? And get clear on your own philosophy. Get clear on your own model of reality. Get clear on your own beliefs about that. Practice communicating that, because that's going to become something that becomes a part of your identity. It's going to become something that is effectively communicated, especially when it comes to negotiating with the women that you're seeing, the women that you're sleeping with. And they need to hear this too, because you've got kind of a choice. You can either pretend that you're the good guy, you're the boyfriend type, but actually be going out and doing other things, like giving your attention to other women and sleeping with other women and having another thing, which some would say, yeah, you could do that and get away with it for a little while, and maybe that's easier because then at least you're not like creating a drama, because some girls can't handle it. And obviously also guys do that on a regular basis because they just don't want to face the possibility that if they tell the truth to a woman that she might not like them, might not be interested, or wants to get away from that kind of situation. And once again, rightly so. But the interesting thing about that is that there is a gray zone. There's a very big gray zone inside female psychology that is to be negotiated. And even though in terms of the mainstream, there's often like only really black and whites, like people that are in long-term relationships and people that are basically single or dating. There is, like I said, a huge space in between. And I mean, James Marshall goes on about this stuff a lot in terms of like the dating cycle and which cycle that you're in and how this kind of all lines up. And by all means, check out some of the other videos that he's talked about that, because he goes into a lot of really good detail about the psychology and the ideas behind that, which I tend to agree with all of that stuff. Now, the idea though is that you want to really get who you are, what you want, and where you're at in your cycle, and then being able to effectively communicate that. And what that looks like in practical terms is you are much more honest and upfront with the women that you're sleeping with, which then also prepares you and protects you to a degree from getting overly connected. Because if you are in a stage where you want to be free and you want to be fluid, but at the same time you're allowing yourself to act like and become a kind of a boyfriend, then it's incongruent. It's incongruent for her and it's incongruent for you, and it ends up becoming this kind of messy situation. So this is where the second piece of managing your focus is really important. Let's back up a little bit. Maybe for example, you sleep with a girl, okay, it's cool, it's casual, it's normal, then you sleep with her again, it gets a little bit more serious, and then a little bit more, it gets a little bit more serious, and before you know it, you're hanging out a lot, you're going on dates, you're spending time together. And if that's really what you want to do, and you want to have that kind of more intimate relationship that's more of a boyfriend-girlfriend kind of thing, then cool. And honestly, if you're moving into that kind of space, then maybe you either need to look at negotiating if you actually want to be monogamous with her, or if you want to negotiate some kind of polyamorous arrangement that's going to be good for both of you guys. But if she's the kind of girl that you're just happy to have basically in your rotation, she's there, she's somebody that you have nice times with, you share pleasure with, but she's not relationship material, she's not girlfriend material, she's not somebody that you want to have as an intense, connection all the time, then make sure you're not giving her that kind of attention and focus. Make sure that you're not leading her into an experience and an expectation, or leading yourself into the experience and expectation of being there all the time. So what does that mean? It means don't get caught up in lots of emotional text messaging. It means don't be showing her a lot of boyfriend kind of traits, like buying her chocolate or flowers, or taking her out to dinner, or holding her hand, or showing her lots of public affection. Don't introduce her to your social circle and make her a part of your regular life, and then make it a thing where it's almost like that's who she is. She's part of your life. You're framing her as a partner. Don't put photos of you and her up on social media that are kind of projecting this image that you're with her when you're actually not really wanting to be with her. And the interesting thing that I also said before, which is a very important part of this, is keep your focus open and available to meeting and connecting with other women along the way, so that you can detach some of that energy.